Well, as Ronald Reagan used to say, our great president, it's happened. The predictable has happened. Massive attacks on Kabul, on American armed forces, on Americans at a hotel, against allies of Afghans, others, death, destruction. Who's responsible for that? Well, a number of people and entities are responsible for that. First and foremost, it's so-called President Biden and so-called Vice President Kamala Harris, who had reason to know that this was going to happen by pulling all the troops out, by surrendering to the Taliban, and the Taliban's working in concert with Al-Qaeda and with ISIS. We know that. General McMaster was on television this morning cementing that concept, which people have tried to dispel. Of course, the Communist News Network, CNN, is trying to spin it in favor of Biden, but that's to be predicted. But Biden now has blood on his hands. So does Kamala Harris, who's off in Southeast Asia, going to come back to do politicking for Governor Gray Davis in California, off there cackling like a witch, laughing. Well, it's no laughing matter. And I don't think they'll be laughing next week on Thursday when we haul them in front of a citizen's grand jury and seek their indictment for murder. If Derek Chauvin can be held accountable for negligent homicide with regard to George Floyd, gets 22 years in prison for that, by the way, then think of Biden and Harris, who knew what they were doing. This wasn't negligence. And everyone told them that was going to happen. But then let's talk about the Republicans. The Republicans on Capitol Hill in particular, who get briefings in intelligence committees and defense committees, they knew what was going to happen too. In fact, they wanted it to happen because politically it's good for them. They think this will help them retake the House of Representatives and the Senate and maybe even win the presidency. Well, that's not likely to happen either because people are beginning to understand that although we have an evil Democrat Party that's been inhabited by socialists, communists, atheists, and other radical groups, we have a totally corrupt Republican Party that does little more than send you emails all day long asking for money and then does nothing. They did nothing. Where's Lindsey Graham, who shoots his mouth off on Sean Hannity? Off with his boyfriend, perhaps? Well, I'll tell you what, the Republicans seem to be off with their girlfriends. It's Sodom and Gomorrah on Capitol Hill. Doesn't matter what sexual persuasion you are. They don't do their job. They're off screwing around, literally. Then let's get to the American people. A significant portion of the American people voted for Joe Biden. I don't tell people who to vote for, but I'll tell you, those who did vote for Joe Biden had reason to know that the man was brain dead, that the man, frankly, wasn't there, that he either has the onset of Alzheimer's or dementia in the extreme, and frankly, is a bumbling fool. We knew that because he never came out of his basement during the campaign. Just the other day, he was supposed to do a press conference. He was 5 hours late. He's probably on his back, and they were shooting him up with something just to get him to be able to be on his feet. And then when he is on his feet, he doesn't know where he is. We saw him wandering around the Rose Garden in the White House just about a week ago, not knowing where to go after the Secret Service was trying to direct him. This is a threat, not just to national security, but to the country as a whole. Do not expect that he will be impeached or Kamala Harris. Not going to happen. A, the Republicans don't have control of Congress, and even if they did, they don't have the guts. And then, of course, there's the 25th Amendment. When a president's incapacitated, that ain't going to happen either, because that depends on Biden's cabinet. And who's responsible for this disaster in Afghanistan? His cabinet. People like Anthony Blinken, Secretary of State. People like Lloyd Austin, Secretary of Defense. People like the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Mark Milley, who are more concerned with transgenderism and critical race theory than defending the American people. So this is where we are. But those people who voted for Biden, they're responsible too. And don't think they're going to vote differently next time, because it doesn't matter. They're living in la-la land. They want to go play golf. They want to go play tennis. They want to go to swimming pools. They think that the wealth that's around us will continue forever, that nothing's going to happen to them. And most of these people, they could care less about the Father and the Son or God or whatever you may be, whether you're Christian or Jewish. This is the bottom line. We need to rise up ourselves before it's too late. Get my book, It Takes a Revolution, Forget the Scandal Industry. I have peaceful and legal means of bringing about a peaceful, nonviolent revolution. And the citizens' grand juries are just one part of it, also our Third Continental Congresses. It's time that we declare independence again. Let the criminals stay in Washington and commit crimes against each other. Let them believe that they're smarter than the rest of us. Let them think that they're superior. Let them think they're the new American nobility. Fine. We know what happens to nobilities. Ask the French people what happened in 1789 when the Bastille was stormed. I'm not advocating that we do that, but I am advocating that we use peaceful and legal means, and the time is now because time is short, and now we see it in living color, mainly the color red, blood flowing in the streets of Kabul, and not just Afghans, but Americans. Rise up, ladies and gentlemen. Get my book, It Takes a Revolution, with a contribution of $50 or more. You can get it at freedomwatchusa.org. It helps us do our work. Join our Third Continental Congresses. Join us and form a new government by and for the people, and new political parties, which will be separate. I'm forming a new one, and I've already well on my way of the New American Independence Party. These people do not represent us, but I'll tell you who does. The Father and the Son. Invoke his divine providence. Get down on your knees and pray that he doesn't do to this country what he's done to other civilizations when they do not follow his divine word. This country has become a cesspool, an unethical cesspool of immorality, lack of respect for God, lack of respect for other people. It's become inhabited and infested, shall we say, by communist-leaning atheists who have taken total control over our lives. Well, we won't let that stand, and you cannot let it stand. So get up off your couch. Turn off Sean Hannity. We don't need to hear that the Democrats say we're throwing Granny over the cliff. It's time that peacefully and legally we throw the elite over the cliff, and we take control of this country. God bless you. I'll be back tomorrow with another special podcast.